Ladies and gentlemen, we are now reaching the last session of today's symposium. This session will be moderated by Dr. Safarina Malik from Mohtaryadi Institute for Nanotechnology and Dr. Jeremy Lim from National University of Singapore. Dr. Safarina Malik, the time is yours.
Thank you, Priska. Welcome again, everybody. Hi, Jeremy, you are here already. Thank you. For today's session, I will chair specifically for Jeremy's presentation, and then after that, Jeremy will continue being the chair of this session. Jeremy, the time is yours.
Thank you very much.
You have 15 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Please permit me to share my slides. Yes, are you able to see the slides just to test?
Yes. Yes, but it's still not in, okay, now it's...
Yes, this is great. Okay, wonderful. Safarina and friends, thank you very much for the opportunity to share some thoughts on what we have been doing in this part of the world and some of the challenges that we are facing. And please take this as an open dialogue, or what the Americans call an open mic session, where we are all free to share our ideas and confront these challenges as a region, right? I will confess upfront that I'm not a microbiome person like many of you. My own training is in clinical medicine, surgery, as well as preventative medicine. And many of the slides that you'll see in the upcoming presentation will have been prepared by my colleague, To Kai, who is the head of research and lab within AMiLi, right? And what I'm going to speak about today is to talk about integrating collection efforts within Southeast Asia, right? I think I'm preaching to the choir, as they say, on the importance of the gut microbiome, but I just wanted to share, to give everyone that sense of excitement, particularly in the English-speaking media, how people, both the lay public as well as professionals, are so excited about the microbiome. And in fact, in a Guardian article a year and a half ago, the gut microbiome has been highlighted as the most important discovery for human healthcare in recent decades. And as I was preparing for this session, I thought I would pull out two recent articles. One is from Nature Medicine just last week, titled "The Case for Including Microbial Sequences in the Electronic Health Record," and one 2 days ago on the BBC on how gut bacteria are controlling your brain. So it is very, very clear there is tremendous interest, but as Dr. Martin Blazer has been emphasizing over the last 20 years, that we are missing microbes, that the world, through industrialization, through urbanization, we are losing many of the microbes that are such an important source and richness of biodiversity for all of us. And that aside, it is challenging that across the collection of really microbiome samples around the world, we in Southeast Asia are massively underweighted. We are very much smaller in terms of samples collected relative to our population. And for those of us who live in this part of the world, you know that Southeast Asia is such a diverse collection of countries. Each of us have very different and unique cultures, diets, and lifestyles. And all the more important as Southeast Asia moves through this wave of industrialization and urbanization that occurred in the Western world 60 to 70 years ago, which is now starting to be full force in our part of the world. It's all the more urgent that Southeast Asia becomes appropriately represented in terms of microbiome research and the use of uniquely Southeast Asian reference databases to be part of the algorithms that are used in predicting based on microbiome profile and really other domains, clinical risk for specific diseases, responses to interventions, and so on, right? So I wanted to highlight here that there are modest efforts in the region for data sharing and for sample sharing. And we in the National University of Singapore have put our hand up to join Gloria and Martin on this journey. As this article in the Straits Times highlights, we are participating in this global effort to develop And this came from the journalists. As we explained what we were trying to do, he said, you're building a Noah's Ark for microbes. And I thought it was a very easy way to explain to the lay public what is it that we want to do and why we want to do it. However, while the theory is very straightforward, the importance of doing this has been discussed earlier and still remains very important and urgent. There are many unresolved issues, as the previous panel had shared, around things like cross-border sample handling, use in research, who can use under what conditions, intellectual property management. All of these will need to be addressed. Some of it will need to be addressed at the global level. Some of it will need to be addressed at the regional or at the national level. But it is important that we address them. So maybe beyond the policy issues, I wanted to very quickly highlight some of the technical challenges, because if we cannot overcome the technical challenges and align on them, then tackling the harder and the more pernicious policy issues around sovereignty and so on would be a moot point. And what this slide highlights is that while it's wonderful that the microbiome collection is non-invasive and that next-gen sequencing has been transformative in our field, the science is also very compelling that there's a lot of inter-collection, inter-batch variability, and these can be due to many, many reasons. The choice of primers, the extraction protocols, how we even collect samples, the temperature, reagents, and really so on. And over the next few slides, I will quickly whiz through how much variability this can account for, and in a sense, and then summarize with what are our thoughts on potential ways forward, right? I would also say upfront, as this article that we published in the Singapore Medical Journal illustrates, that we are not walking down a well-trodden path. If we were moving through the forest, we would have to forge our own path. And hence, we need to be very clear that this is very important. There are significant challenges, and there are no nice, clean solutions. We may need to adapt or even invent suitable technologies and methods to enable wide access to microbiome science across Southeast Asia. I had mentioned that Southeast Asia is very, very diverse. We're not just diverse in our diets and our lifestyles, but we're very diverse also in the scientific resources that we can mobilize for an intervention like the Microbiota Vault, which seeks to preserve the really microbes of the entire world. And we in Southeast Asia want to be part of this journey. So what this slide shows is that there are significant clustering and really variability based on the different collection methods, the temperature, whether it's a -80-degree freezer, whether it's at 4 degrees. Kai will be happy to take questions later during the Q&A, but suffice to say, in the little time that I have, that if we don't agree on how to collect, what to collect with, and what are the conditions, it will be very, very difficult for us to integrate collection efforts across Southeast Asia, right? What this slide shows also is that depending on the reagent used, right, whether it's ethanol at 70%, 95%, and so on, the results can again be very, very different, right? And of course, in highly developed urbanized settings, we do want to preserve cold chain. We want to get fresh samples, but particularly in Southeast Asia, as we go out to the hill tribes in northern Thailand, we go to the remote islands in Indonesia to engage with the orang laut and others, it becomes very, very technically challenging to take the gold standard with cold chain preservation across the entire journey. And we have to figure out what then are our pragmatic options, because every day that we wait, that we delay while we hope that technology improves, it becomes affordable enough, as really Dr. Blazer says, we are missing microbes, and every generation we lose more and more microbes. So I'll just quickly whiz through since I'm running a bit short of time, and as the moderator, I should be the most disciplined in keeping to time. What the next few slides illustrate are different methodologies that are commercially and also on a kind of in-house basis have been developed and they have been studied. Right, so the RNA later is one of the methods that are commercially available. There's also the OmniGene, right, which is available also. And what this slide shows is that depending on the temperature, depending on which days that they have been collected, it's really good in some areas, less good in other areas, right? As some of this data shows, very, very good for metagenomics, but less good for metabolite analysis, right? And finally, I wanted to share some of the in-house work around 95% ethanol. But first, I will share this is coming out of Rob Knight's lab, which shows that 95% ethanol, it is viable and it's very, very inexpensive, relatively easy for basically lay persons or people who are not in resource-rich settings to use, right? And we have done some work with the Duke and NUS Medical School, and we have found that the short-chain fatty acid panel is stable at ambient temperature for a week. So the good thing is that Southeast Asia, from a geographic point of view, is relatively compact. So what we do with these in-house testing and so on, and the evaluation of what's commercially out there, is to figure out if we accept the reality that preservation of a cold chain is very difficult for many of us in Southeast Asia, then what's the next best option, right? And so some of the studies that we have done, as AMiLi, a gut microbiome company that we spun out of the National University of Singapore and in partnership with the National University Hospital. These are some of the results that we have shown. In the interest of time, I won't go into detail, but take-home message, trust me on this, 95% ethanol is viable, right? Same for the metagenomics and in terms of some of the parameters that we're all familiar with the diversity scores and so on, it is comparable to commercially available systems. So in the interest of time, I will whiz through all this, okay? And I want to sum up with this slide, okay, that we have many options. None of them are perfect to overcome or to mitigate the cold chain challenges. But the important thing is that we need to have that discussion as a collection of countries coming together. We need to have those very candid discussions about what's possible, what is not possible, and then align. So if I can conclude, I'll just say that the potential of the microbiome in improving human health is too important for us to squander this opportunity. There might be microbes within the indigenous populations in any of our countries. Other than Singapore, we have no more indigenous populations. But some of these microbes may hold the secrets to unlocking longevity, to unlocking improved response to immunotherapies in cancer care, and really so on, right? We in Southeast Asia, like the rest of the world, are losing microbes with increasing urbanization as well as industrialization. We expect that this rate of loss will only continue to accelerate, and therefore there is an urgent need to commence our own regional biosample collection as well as characterization. I want to end on an optimistic note. Let's not trivialize the number of challenges, both technical as well as policy, that need to be overcome. But I'm very confident that if we work together, we can. And since this is the start of the year, and the Academy Awards nominees were just released yesterday, I wanted to end with a quote from Walt Disney, where he said, "The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing." And on this note, thank you very much. I'll be very happy to take any questions during the Q&A session.
Thank you, Jeremy. Big applause for Jeremy.